Hello, everyone, and welcome back to English Paper, the podcast where you can improve your English while enjoying interesting stories. I am your host, Alex, and I am very happy that you are here today. Before we begin our adventure, please subscribe to the channel if you are new. Don't forget to like, share, and leave a comment. Your support helps us create more English stories and podcasts for learners all around the world. Now, sit back, relax, and let's begin today's adventure. Our story begins on a bright summer morning. The blue ocean stretched as far as the eye could see. Gentle waves touched the sides of a beautiful sailing ship called the Horizon. White clouds floated slowly across the sky, and a soft wind pushed the ship forward. On board was the Carter family. The father's name was David Carter. He was calm, wise, and always tried to solve problems with patience. His wife was Emma Carter. She loved nature and always believed that every difficult day would end with hope. They had 2 children. Their son, Ryan, was 16 years old. He was curious and loved learning new things. He often carried a small notebook where he wrote interesting facts about animals and plants. Lily was 12 years old. She was kind, cheerful, and always found beauty in simple things. She loved drawing birds, flowers, and beautiful landscapes. The family was traveling across the ocean to begin a new life in another country. David had accepted a new job, and they were excited to start a fresh chapter together. "Look at the dolphins!" Lily shouted happily. Everyone rushed to the side of the ship. Several dolphins jumped out of the water. They swam beside the ship as if they were welcoming the travelers. "They look so happy," Emma said with a smile. Ryan quickly opened his notebook. "Dolphins often travel in groups," Ryan said. "A group of dolphins is called a pod." "That's interesting," David replied. Lily laughed. "You always know something new." Ryan smiled. "I just like learning." The captain of the ship walked toward the family. "My name is Captain William," he said kindly. "The weather is perfect today. If everything goes well, we'll reach our destination in 6 days." "That is wonderful news," David answered. Everything seemed peaceful. No one knew that their lives were about to change forever. The next 2 days were calm and beautiful. Every morning the family enjoyed breakfast together while watching the endless ocean. Ryan spent hours reading books about survival and wildlife. Lily painted colorful sunsets. Emma talked with other passengers and learned about their dreams. David often helped the sailors with small tasks because he enjoyed learning how ships worked. One afternoon, Captain William invited Ryan to the control room. "This compass has guided me across the sea for 20 years, the captain said. Ryan looked carefully. "It looks old." "It is," the captain laughed. "But sometimes old things are the most reliable." Ryan smiled. "I hope one day I can travel around the world." "You will," he replied. "Just remember one thing." "What is it?" "The sea is beautiful." He looked toward the horizon. "But it always deserves respect." Ryan remembered those words. On the evening of the third day, something changed. The air became strangely quiet. The wind suddenly stopped. Even the birds disappeared. David noticed the silence. "Isn't it unusually quiet?" Emma nodded. "It feels different." Captain William looked at the dark horizon through his telescope. His smile slowly disappeared. He immediately called several sailors. "Lower the sails." The sailors looked surprised. "But Captain, the weather is still clear." "Do it now." His voice was serious. Passengers began whispering. "What's happening? Is something wrong?" No one knew. Far away, dark clouds slowly appeared. At first, they looked small, but every minute they grew larger. The blue sky slowly turned gray. The wind returned. This time, it was much stronger. The ship gently rocked from side to side. Lily held her mother's hand. "I don't like this." Emma hugged her. "Everything will be all right." She hoped her words were true. Within 1 hour, the peaceful sea became wild. Huge waves crashed against the ship. Rain poured from the sky like thousands of tiny arrows. Thunder shook the air. Lightning flashed across the dark clouds. Passengers screamed. Children cried. The sailors pulled ropes with all their strength. Captain William shouted orders. "Hold the sails! Secure the cargo! Everyone stay inside!" The ship climbed one enormous wave, then it crashed down again. Wood cracked loudly. Ryan struggled to keep his balance. "I've never seen anything like this." David grabbed both children. "Stay close." Another giant wave hit the ship. Water rushed across the deck. Several boxes were swept into the sea. The ship leaned dangerously. Emma prayed quietly. "Please keep us safe." Captain William looked ahead. His face became pale. "There are rocks." The sailors looked forward. Sharp black rocks stood just beneath the waves. "The current is pushing us toward them." The captain turned the wheel with all his strength. The ship slowly changed direction. Everyone held their breath. For a moment, it seemed they would escape. Then, crash. The bottom of the ship hit a hidden rock. A terrible sound echoed through the storm. Wood broke apart. The ship shook violently. Passengers fell onto the floor. Water rushed inside. One sailor shouted the words everyone feared. "The ship is taking on water!" Captain William acted immediately. "Prepare the lifeboats." The sailors worked as fast as they could. Rain blinded them. The waves made every step dangerous. Ryan looked at his family. "We must stay together, no matter what happens." Emma nodded. Ryan held Lily's hand tightly. "I won't let go." The family carefully followed the crew toward one of the lifeboats. People climbed inside. The waves pushed the small boat up and down. Captain William helped the last passengers. "Quickly!" Another loud crack echoed across the sea. The main mast broke in half. It crashed onto the deck. Everyone screamed. The horizon was dying. David helped Emma into the lifeboat, then Ryan, then Lily. Finally, he climbed in himself. The sailors cut the rope. The tiny boat floated away from the sinking ship. Everyone watched silently. The great ship that had carried them safely for days slowly disappeared beneath the enormous waves. Only pieces of broken wood remained on the water. Lily began crying. "Our ship!" Emma hugged her. "It's gone, but we are together." The storm continued throughout the night. The lifeboat rose and fell on the giant waves. Nobody slept. Nobody spoke very much. The family held each other tightly. Rain soaked their clothes. Cold wind blew across the sea. Ryan looked into the darkness. "Where are we going?" David answered honestly, "I don't know." Hours passed. Finally, the storm slowly became weaker. The rain stopped. The waves became smaller. Dark clouds moved away. The first light of morning appeared. Golden sunlight spread across the ocean. Everyone looked around. The large ship was gone. There was no sign of land, only endless water. Then Lily suddenly stood up. "I see something." Everyone looked where she was pointing. Far away, a small green island appeared on the horizon. Could this be their rescue, or would it become the beginning of a much greater adventure? The lifeboat slowly drifted toward the mysterious island. No one knew that this island held secrets that would change their lives forever. The small lifeboat floated slowly toward the island. The sea was now calm, and the morning sun shone brightly. The water was clear, and colorful fish swam beneath the boat. "There it is," David said quietly. Everyone looked ahead. The island was covered with tall green trees. White sand surrounded the beach, and birds flew high above the forest. "It looks beautiful," Lily whispered. "It does," Emma replied. "But we must be careful." Soon the boat touched the soft sand. "We're here," David said. One by one, they climbed out of the lifeboat. For a few moments, nobody spoke. They simply stood on the beach, thankful to be alive. Ryan took a deep breath. "The air smells so fresh." Lily smiled. "I've never seen water this clear." Emma looked toward the sky. "Thank you for keeping us safe." David knew they could not waste time. "We need to know what this island has." "What should we look for first?" Ryan asked. "Three things," David answered. "Fresh water, food, and a safe place to sleep." Emma nodded. "Without water, we cannot survive for long." The family agreed to stay together. As they walked along the beach, they found many useful things that had washed ashore after the storm. There were wooden boards, strong ropes, a large fishing net, several empty barrels, a small toolbox. Ryan smiled. "These could help us." David nodded. "We should carry everything we can." They worked together for almost an hour. Although they were tired, they knew these items could save their lives. The family entered the forest. The trees were tall and provided cool shade from the hot sun. Beautiful butterflies flew through the air. Bright flowers covered the ground. Strange birds sang cheerful songs from the branches above. Lily looked around with wonder. "This place feels magical." Ryan laughed. "It also feels like we're explorers." As they walked deeper into the forest, they heard a gentle sound. "Listen." Emma stopped walking. "Can you hear that?" Everyone became quiet. "Water. Running water." "It sounds like a stream," Ryan shouted. They followed the sound. Soon they discovered a small river flowing over smooth rocks.
The water looked clean and clear. David knelt beside it. He carefully examined the water. It seems fresh. He filled a small metal cup from the lifeboat. He smelled it. Then he tasted a little. After waiting several minutes, he smiled. "I think it's safe." Everyone drank slowly. The cool water felt wonderful. "I've never enjoyed water this much," Lily laughed. Emma smiled. Sometimes we don't realize how valuable simple things are.
Now that they had water, they needed food. Ryan noticed several coconut trees. "There are coconuts!" David looked up. "They're too high. I'll try." Using a long stick, David knocked several coconuts onto the ground. Lily clapped happily. Breakfast had arrived. Ryan carefully opened one using a rock. Fresh coconut water spilled out. "It tastes amazing," Lily said. Nearby, Emma discovered banana trees filled with ripe bananas. Not far away, they found bushes covered with sweet berries. David reminded everyone, "Never eat unknown plants unless you are sure they are safe." Ryan wrote another note in his notebook. Lesson: never eat wild plants unless you are sure they are safe. Emma smiled. "Good idea. One day this notebook may help us remember everything we've learned." The afternoon sun became hotter. "We need shade before night," David said. Near the beach stood a group of strong palm trees. "It will be easier to see the ocean from here," Emma said. "And if a ship passes by, they might see us." Everyone agreed. Using the wooden boards, ropes, and large leaves, they began building a simple shelter. Ryan tied the ropes. David lifted heavy branches. Emma gathered large palm leaves. Lily collected smaller sticks. They worked together for many hours. Finally, they stepped back. It wasn't a house, it wasn't perfect, but it would protect them from the sun and light rain. Lily smiled proudly. "We built this together." David nodded. Teamwork makes difficult jobs easier. As the evening approached, Ryan noticed movement near the trees. "Look!" A small brown rabbit carefully stepped out of the bushes. It looked at the family with curious eyes. Lily slowly held out a banana. The rabbit sniffed the air. Then it came closer. Very carefully, it took a tiny bite. Lily laughed happily. "It trusts us." Soon, colorful parrots landed nearby. A family of turtles slowly walked across the beach. Small monkeys watched from the trees. Emma smiled. "The animals don't seem afraid." David looked around. "That's a good sign. If these animals live here peacefully, perhaps there aren't many dangerous predators nearby." But he wasn't completely sure. As the sky turned orange, David gathered dry wood. "We need a fire." Using the small emergency kit from the lifeboat, he struck two pieces together. After several tries, a tiny flame appeared. Ryan quickly added dry grass. Emma carefully placed small sticks on top. The fire grew larger. Everyone smiled. Its warm light made them feel safe. That evening they ate coconuts, bananas, and berries. It wasn't a big meal, but it was enough. The stars slowly filled the night sky. Lily looked upward. "I've never seen so many stars." Ryan agreed. "The city lights usually hide them." Emma quietly said, "No matter where we are, we're together." David smiled. "And together we'll survive."
The next morning, Ryan woke up before sunrise. He walked along the beach while everyone else was still sleeping. The cool morning breeze felt refreshing. Suddenly, he stopped. There in the wet sand were footprints, large footprints. They looked human. Ryan carefully looked around. There was nobody. The footprints began near the water, then continued toward the forest. He followed them for a short distance. Then they suddenly disappeared. Ryan felt his heart beating faster. He ran back to the shelter. "Dad!" David quickly stood up. "What happened?" Ryan pointed toward the beach. "I found footprints, human footprints." Everyone rushed to see them. David carefully examined the sand. These were not animal tracks. They were definitely made by a person. But whose? Emma looked nervously toward the forest. "Do you think someone lives here?" David didn't answer immediately. Instead, he looked at the endless trees stretching across the island. "I don't know, but from now on, we must be alert." A gentle wind moved through the forest. Somewhere deep among the trees, something or someone was watching. The family didn't know it yet, but they were about to uncover the island's greatest mystery. Early the next morning, David packed a small bag. Inside, he placed a bottle of fresh water, some bananas, a few coconuts, a small knife from the toolbox, and Ryan's notebook. "We won't explore the whole island today," David said. "We'll only follow the footprints and return before sunset." Emma agreed. "We must stay together. Nobody walks alone." Lily looked toward the forest. "It feels different today." Ryan smiled nervously. "Maybe we're about to solve a mystery." The family followed the footprints from the beach. The marks became clearer as they entered the forest. For nearly an hour, they walked carefully between tall trees. The island became quieter. The birds stopped singing. Even the wind seemed to disappear. "I don't like this silence," Lily whispered. David nodded. "Stay close." Suddenly, the trees opened into a wide green valley. Everyone stopped in surprise. Before them was the most beautiful place they had ever seen. A tall waterfall poured down from the rocks into a clear blue lake. Colorful flowers covered the ground. Butterflies floated through the air. Small deer drank peacefully beside the water. Lily smiled. "It's like a dream." Emma laughed softly. "I've never seen anything so beautiful." Ryan quickly opened his notebook. "I want to remember every part of this place." David looked around carefully. "This valley could become an important place for us. There is water, fruit, and many animals." They rested beside the lake for a short time before continuing their journey. As they climbed a rocky path, a loud sound suddenly echoed through the trees. "Roar!" Everyone froze. "What was that?" Lily whispered. Another roar shook the forest. David quickly looked around. Then he saw it. A large wild boar stepped out from the bushes. It was much bigger than any pig they had ever seen. Its sharp tusks shone in the sunlight. The animal looked frightened. It stamped its feet against the ground. "Don't run," David said quietly. "Slowly move backward." The family obeyed. The boar watched them carefully. For a few long seconds, nobody moved. Then The animal turned around and disappeared into the forest. Everyone breathed a sigh of relief. Ryan smiled weakly. "I thought it was going to charge at us." "So did I," David admitted. Emma looked at the children. "We learned something important. We must respect every wild animal." The footprints continued beyond the valley. Soon they reached a rocky cliff. Ryan looked around. "The footprints end here." Lily touched the rock. "Maybe whoever made them climbed up." David searched carefully. Then he noticed something unusual. Several vines covered part of the cliff. When he moved them aside, a dark opening appeared. "A cave," Emma whispered. The entrance was hidden so well that nobody would notice it. David lit a small torch using dry grass and a burning stick from the campfire they had carried. "I'll go first." The family slowly entered. The cave was cool and quiet. Water dripped from the ceiling. Their footsteps echoed softly. As their eyes adjusted to the darkness, they saw something unbelievable. Old wooden shelves, broken chairs, a small table. Someone had once lived here. In one corner of the cave stood an old wooden chest covered in dust. Ryan carefully brushed away the dirt. "It's locked." David examined the lock. "It has already broken." He slowly lifted the lid. Creak! Inside were several strange objects: an old compass, a rusty pocket watch, a metal cup, a leather notebook, and a rolled-up map. Lily gasped. Someone left these behind. Emma gently picked up the notebook. The pages were old and yellow. Most of the writing had faded. Only a few sentences could still be read. Ryan slowly read aloud. "If anyone finds this place, do not lose hope. The island provides everything you need. Kindness is your greatest strength." The family became silent. David carefully folded the notebook. Whoever lived here wanted future visitors to survive. Ryan opened the map. It showed rivers, mountains, the waterfall, and something marked with a large red circle. "What does that circle mean?" Lily asked. David looked closely. "I don't know." As they left the cave, Ryan suddenly pointed toward the highest mountain. "Look!" Emma stared in surprise. "Smoke means fire." David's face became serious, and fire usually means people. The family looked at one another. Could someone still be living on the island of hope? Or was there another explanation? "We're going back," David decided. "We've learned enough for one day." No one argued. "But I think we'll find out." On the way home, Lily heard a soft crying sound. "Wait!" Everyone stopped. Behind a bush, they found a tiny baby deer. Its front leg was trapped between two fallen branches. The frightened animal struggled to escape. "It's hurt," Lily said sadly. David carefully lifted the heavy branch. Ryan gently pulled the little deer free. The baby deer stood up. It looked at the family for a moment. Then it slowly walked away. After a few steps, it stopped. It turned around, almost as if it were saying, "Thank you." Then it disappeared into the forest. Emma smiled warmly. "No matter where we are, we should always help those in need." Lily nodded happily. "I hope it finds its mother." That evening, the family returned safely to their shelter. They shared everything they had discovered: the cave, the notebook, the compass, the mysterious map, and the strange smoke. After dinner, everyone became quiet. The fire burned gently. The stars filled the sky once again. Ryan couldn't stop thinking about the map. There has to be a reason someone drew that red circle. David agreed. We'll explore it one day, but only after we're fully prepared. Late one night, everyone was asleep. Everyone except Ryan. He heard a faint sound outside. Crunch! Crunch! Something was walking near the shelter. Slowly, very slowly. Ryan looked outside. A shadow moved between the palm trees. It was too dark to see clearly. He quietly awoke his father. "Dad, I think someone is here." David stepped outside holding a burning torch. The shadow disappeared behind the trees. He searched the beach. Nobody. He searched near the forest. Nothing. Then he looked down. Fresh footprints. The same human footprints they had seen before, but this time they ended only a few meters from their shelter. Someone had come during the night. Someone had watched them while they slept. David quietly covered the footprints with sand before the children saw them in the morning. He didn't want them to be afraid. But deep inside, he knew one thing: the Carter family was not alone on the island of hope. The next morning, the sky looked different. Dark gray clouds slowly gathered above the island. The air felt warm and heavy. Even the birds became unusually quiet. David looked toward the ocean. "I don't like this." Emma noticed the strong wind beginning to blow. "Another storm?" "I think so," David answered. "This one may be even stronger." Ryan looked at the shelter they had built. "It won't survive a big storm." David nodded. "Then we have work to do." Everyone immediately began working. David cut strong branches from nearby trees. Ryan tied thick ropes around the wooden supports. Emma collected large palm leaves to cover the roof. Lily gathered dry food and placed it inside waterproof barrels. By afternoon, the wind had become much stronger. Tall palm trees bent from side to side. Large waves crashed against the beach. "We're running out of time," David said. Suddenly, the little brown rabbit they had met a few days earlier ran toward their shelter. Behind it came two tiny baby rabbits. Lily smiled. "They're scared." Emma gently carried the baby rabbits into the shelter. "They can stay with us tonight." The little animals quietly curled together in one corner. Just before sunset, the storm arrived. Powerful winds shook the entire island. Rain fell harder than anyone had ever seen. Lightning flashed across the sky every second. Thunder echoed through the mountains. The shelter trembled violently. Ryan held one of the wooden poles. "It feels like it's going to break." David pushed against another support. "Hold it!" Everyone worked together. Then, crack! One side of the roof flew into the air. Rain poured inside. The family quickly moved their supplies to the safest corner. For hours they listened to the roar of the storm. Nobody slept. Everyone hoped morning would come soon. At sunrise, the storm finally ended. The island looked completely different. Many trees had fallen. Branches covered the beach. Their shelter was badly damaged. Half the roof had disappeared. Lily looked around sadly. "We worked so hard." Emma placed a hand on her shoulder. "We can build it again." David smiled. "A stronger one." Ryan nodded. "This time, we'll make it better." Together, they began cleaning the area. Although they were tired, nobody complained. They had learned something important. Every challenge made them stronger. That afternoon, Ryan went to collect fresh water from the stream. As he filled a bottle, he heard footsteps. Crunch, crunch. Ryan quickly turned around. Standing between the trees was an old man. He had a long white beard. His clothes were made from animal skin and woven leaves. His face looked kind but tired. Neither of them spoke. For several seconds they simply looked at each other. Then the old man slowly raised one hand. He was not carrying any weapon. Ryan carefully waved back. The old man smiled gently. Then he disappeared into the forest. Ryan immediately ran back to the shelter. "You won't believe what I just saw." David stood up. "What happened?" "I saw him. The person who made the footprints." Emma looked surprised. "What did he do?" "Nothing. He just smiled." David became thoughtful. If he wanted to hurt us, he had many chances. Instead, he walked away. The next morning, David made a decision. "We're going to find him." Emma nodded, but carefully. The family followed the footprints once again. This time, they didn't have to search for long. Near the waterfall, they saw the old man sitting quietly beside the lake. He was fishing. When he noticed the family, he slowly stood up. David smiled politely. "My name is David." The old man placed his hand on his chest. "My name?" He spoke slowly. "Samuel." His voice was weak, as if he had not spoken to another person for many years. Emma smiled warmly. "It's nice to meet you." Samuel looked at each family member. His eyes filled with happiness. "I thought I would never see another family again." The family sat beside the lake. Samuel began telling his story. "Many years ago, I was a sailor. Our ship was destroyed during a storm. I was the only survivor." Ryan listened carefully. "How long have you lived here?" Samuel looked toward the mountains. "I stopped counting. Maybe 25 years?" Everyone became silent. 25 years. Alone. Lily quietly asked, "Weren't you lonely?" Samuel smiled sadly. "Every single day. But the island became my home. I learned how to survive. I learned which plants were safe. I learned where the animals lived." David remembered the notebook they had found. "Did you leave the notebook in the cave?" Samuel smiled. "You found it. I hoped one day someone would." Ryan handed him the old notebook. Samuel gently held it. His eyes became wet. "I wrote this so many years ago." Samuel unrolled the old map. "You saw the red circle." Everyone nodded. "What is there?" Samuel pointed toward the highest mountain. "There is an old lighthouse. It stopped working many years ago. It was built by sailors long ago." Ryan looked surprised. "A lighthouse?" Samuel nodded. "If we repair it, it can guide ships." David immediately understood. If a ship sees the light, they may rescue us." Samuel smiled. "Exactly." Emma looked hopeful for the first time in many days. "So we still have a chance." Samuel stood up. "But repairing it won't be easy. The path is dangerous, and the lighthouse has been abandoned for many years." David smiled confidently. "Then we'll rebuild it, together." Samuel smiled. For the first time in 25 years, he was no longer alone. The next morning, the family packed everything they needed: ropes, food, fresh water, tools, the old compass, and the map. Samuel led the way. The mountain stood high above the island. Clouds surrounded its peak. Lily looked up. "It's so tall." Samuel smiled. "The climb will take 2 days." Ryan laughed. "Looks like another adventure." As they entered the mountain trail, none of them noticed, far out on the ocean, a large sailing ship appeared on the horizon. His captain looked through a telescope. He could just barely see the outline of the island. Would the ship come closer, or would it disappear forever? The answer would change all of their lives. Early the next morning, the sky was clear. The sun had just begun to rise, painting the clouds with beautiful shades of orange and pink. Samuel stood at the front of the group. "Everyone ready?" David smiled. "We're ready." The family carried ropes, tools, food, water, and the old map. The climb was difficult. The path became steeper with every step. Large rocks blocked their way. Sometimes they had to climb using both their hands and feet. Lily became tired. "My legs hurt." Emma smiled gently. "We'll rest for a few minutes." Samuel pointed toward the mountain peak. "We're almost there." Ryan laughed. "You've been saying that for an hour." Everyone laughed. Even during difficult times, laughter gave them strength. After several more hours, they finally reached the top. Standing before them was an old stone lighthouse. It was much taller than they had imagined. Its walls were covered with green vines. Some windows were broken. The wooden door hung loosely from one hinge. "It looks ancient," Ryan whispered. Samuel slowly touched the wall. "I built part of this lighthouse many years ago." David was surprised. "You repaired it by yourself?" Samuel nodded. "I hoped someone would see the light, but after many years, I became too old." Emma looked inside. Everything was covered with dust. Broken furniture lay scattered across the floor. The large glass lens at the top was cracked. "It won't be easy," David said, "but we can do it." The family immediately began cleaning the lighthouse. Ryan removed broken wood. David repaired the staircase. Emma cleaned the dusty windows. Lily gathered dry branches for a fire. Samuel carefully examined the old light. "The lamp still works." Everyone looked at him. "It only needs new fuel." Ryan smiled. "That's good news." Together they searched the mountain for tree sap and natural oils that Samuel had used years before. It took the entire afternoon. Finally, Samuel poured the fuel into the old lamp. David carefully lit it. A tiny flame appeared. Then the great glass lens reflected the light. A bright golden beam stretched across the ocean. The lighthouse was alive again. Everyone cheered. "We did it!" The family remained at the lighthouse for several days. Every evening they lit the great lamp. Every morning they looked across the endless sea, but no ships appeared. Lily sighed. "What if nobody comes?" Samuel smiled kindly. "Hope requires patience."
Ryan looked toward the horizon. "We've already survived so much. We can wait a little longer." David agreed. "We never give up." On the fifth evening, dark clouds gathered once again. A strong wind blew across the mountain. "This weather reminds me of the first storm," Emma said quietly. Samuel looked worried. If the wind becomes stronger, the lighthouse could be damaged again. Without wasting a second, everyone began protecting the building. They tied ropes around the wooden doors. They closed every window. They secured the heavy lamp. Then the storm arrived. The mountain shook beneath the powerful wind. Rain hit the lighthouse like thousands of tiny stones. Lightning flashed across the sky. The great lamp flickered. "Keep it burning," Samuel shouted. Ryan and David held the heavy metal frame. Emma protected the fuel container. Lily prayed quietly. For hours they fought against the storm. Finally, the wind became weaker. The rain stopped. The first rays of sunlight appeared. The lighthouse was still standing. Its bright light continued to shine over the sea. The next morning, Lily looked through the old telescope. Suddenly, she gasped. "I see something!" Everyone hurried toward her. Far away, a ship sailed across the ocean. David looked through the telescope. "It really is a ship." Samuel quickly lit the lighthouse again. Ryan and Emma waved large white cloths. David built a huge smoky fire beside the lighthouse. The ship continued sailing. For a moment, it seemed as if it would pass the island. Nobody spoke. Everyone watched silently. Then the ship slowly changed direction. "It's coming!" Lily shouted with joy. "We're going home!" Tears filled Emma's eyes. Several hours later, a small rescue boat reached the beach. The captain stepped onto the sand. "My name is Captain Oliver. We saw your lighthouse." Samuel smiled. It finally worked. The captain looked at him with surprise. "Have you been living here?" Samuel nodded. "For 25 years." The captain was speechless. He had never heard such an incredible story. The crew helped carry the family's belongings to the rescue boat. Before leaving, David turned toward Samuel. "Come with us." Samuel looked around the island, the trees, the waterfall, the beach, the cave. This island had been his home for half of his life. He smiled. "I think it's time." The family hugged him warmly. For the first time in 25 years, Samuel was leaving the island. As the ship sailed away, everyone stood on the deck. The island became smaller and smaller. Lily wiped away a tear. "I'll miss this place." Ryan nodded. "It taught us so much." Emma smiled. "It taught us to be thankful." David looked toward the disappearing lighthouse. "It taught us that no problem is impossible when a family works together." Samuel quietly whispered, "Goodbye, old friend." The island slowly disappeared beyond the horizon, but none of them would ever forget it. Several weeks later, the Carter family finally arrived safely in their new country. People were amazed by their story. Newspapers wrote about their adventure. Samuel became famous as the sailor who had survived alone for 25 years. But more important than fame was friendship. Samuel became part of the Carter family. He finally had people to laugh with, people to eat with, people to celebrate life with. Every year they gathered together and remembered the Island of Hope, not as a place of fear, but as a place where courage, kindness, and hope changed their lives forever. That brings us to the end of the Island of Hope, a family's incredible survival adventure. I hope you enjoyed this journey and learned some new English words and expressions along the way. If you enjoyed this story, please subscribe to English Paper, like this video, share it with your friends, and leave a comment telling us your favorite part of the adventure.